The story begins with a pastry tournament, where the greatest pastries in the world created exquisite sweets. Among them there was a pastry chef who crafted majestic-looking treats with his exceptional skills, and was sure to win the grand title. His goal is to make a land of sweets, where the whole world can taste his desserts. However, when he attempted to present his finished pieces to the judges, there was an accident, and one of his own creations fell on top of him, and his life was cut short. But his desire to give the whole world diabetes was so strong that God chose to isekai him to a new world. He was granted a new life as a baby boy named Pastry Mille Morteln, son of a noble general Casserole Mille Morteln. When he became the lord of the territory, it was a barren land, but with his hard work he cultivated the land alongside the villagers. After 20 years now they have 3 villages with 40 people in each, and now they are capable of growing both wheat and barley. As he grew, Pastry was raised by his father with the goal of becoming a great military hero. He has 5 older sisters, and a kind mother. It's been 9 years since Pastry was born, and we see him receiving sword training from his father. Although he tried to dodge his father's attacks during their training sessions, he couldn't help but daydream about creating sweets. His distraction led to his defeat in the practice match. Following this, the head retainer, Fief, appears to inform them that breakfast is ready. He then shares the news that the bean field is expected to yield a significant harvest, thanks to Pastry's advice. However, he also brings worrying news that 50 bandits have escaped and are heading toward their property. They are expected to arrive in 2 months. Knowing that his father's forces will be insufficient to win the battle, Pastry is worried. This situation could lead to the destruction of their bean fields, along with the wheat they produce, jeopardizing his dream of creating a land of sweets. Fief suggests that Pastry undergo a sanctification ceremony which grants the individual a unique magic ability. During breakfast, Cass informs about Pastry undergoing the ceremony to his wife, Agnes, and his daughter, Josephine. Agnes is worried as the ceremony is usually for adults, and she wished for more time with her son as a child. Cass tells them they will leave in 3 days, and she can do anything with him in the meantime. We then learn that Pastry's mother and sister have the hobby of cross-dressing him as a girl. Since they have only 3 more days left, they are trying to make the most out of it, while Pastry can't wait to undergo the ceremony. The day of their departure arrives, and Pastry is already exhausted from being used as a dress-up doll by his mother and sister. Agnes wishes her son to have fun and take care of himself, and his friends bid him farewell, wishing him good luck. However, all Pastry could think about was eating a lot of sweets in town. Cass then uses his ability to teleport them to the capital. Pastry notices that there are a lot of things here that he has never seen before, and thinks that he can make a lot of different kinds of sweets with these. His father promises to buy him anything he likes if he successfully completes the sanctification ceremony. He looks around, and sees the apple, known as bonka in the isekai world. He expresses his desire to grow them on the field, and Cass thinks he's already getting the instinct of a true lord. But Pastry's plan is to use them to make different types of desserts like tarts, baked apples, and apple pie. As his father dreams to build a land with a strong army, Pastry wishes to build a land of sweets. Afterward, they meet a panda-like priest, who is surprised about Pastry undergoing the ceremony at such a young age. Meanwhile, we see Josie is worried about her brother, as when she went for the ceremony last time, she was told that she had no magic power. After that, we see Pastry all tied up, and wonder if the priest is into bondage plays. It's revealed that, in order to draw out one's magic, the person has to be confined in darkness, without seeing or hearing anything. More than a day passes, and Cass grows concerned because the expected magic awakening has not occurred. Pastry, on the other hand, spent his time dreaming about making delicious sweets. During his dream, he opens a door and awakens his magic. We then see Cass waking up Pastry, and it's been 2 days. The priest brings a scripture to bless him, and as he chants his prayers, Pastry sees the magic light from the scripture being absorbed into him. Both Cass and Priest are amazed by the magic light being absorbed by Pastry. Priest remarks that he has acquired the power that no one has heard to this day. Cass then gives some donations to the priests, and takes Pastry to buy the bonkas. Meanwhile, the stingy priest is not happy with the donation, as it was all silver coins, and mentions that this won't be enough to keep him quiet. Later we see Pastry enjoying the bonkas, and he hopes to build his land of sweets, and make Big Mom proud. Afterward, we witness a village coming under attack by bandits, with plans to target Pastry's village next. In Pastry's village, the villagers are constructing a defensive wall in anticipation of the bandits' arrival. Fuel reports the bandit attack on a nearby village to Cass, which shocks him. He realizes that at this rate, the bandits will reach their village much sooner than the estimated 2 months. Cass then assigns Pastry the task of reporting the situation to the leaders of each village. Within the village, the residents are busy preparing their defense line. Cass assesses the situation, and decides to seal off the smaller towns. The people from the sealed villages are relocated to the main one, and they plan to lure the bandits to a specific location. Pastry analyzes the situation and realizes that the majority of the fighters are ordinary villagers. Pastry's friends, Lumi and Mark, arrive offering their assistance, and express their desire to become his future retainers. Pastry assigns them the task of gathering rocks from outside the village. During this time, Lumi asks Mark if he knows about Pastry's magic, to which he tells her that he doesn't know because Pastry has been practicing his magic alone. They gathered many rocks until evening, but then they spotted the bandits approaching and rushed back to the village to warn everyone. Marcus's father instructed the kids to remain with Pastry. Meanwhile, Pastry was with his family, but the villagers were frightened. Cass and Fuel managed to calm the villagers and motivated them to prepare for battle. Fuel and Cass discussed their plan, and Cass believed the attack would happen that night, so they needed to be ready. However, Fuel mentioned that if the bandit attack occurred in the morning, the villagers would be exhausted if they stayed up all night. They asked for Pastry's opinion, and he suggested determining the extent of the enemy's supplies and forces. Pastry realized that this was similar to making sweets, where he would need to know the quantity of his ingredients beforehand, and starts getting lost in his thoughts of making a cream pie, but manages to refocus. Following this, his father decides to gather more information by conducting a hit-and-run operation on the bandits, taking Fuel with him. He placed Pastry in charge and left. Pastry was determined to help his father and devise countermeasures against the enemies. He plans to prepare some fire arrows to provide cover for his father during the attack. Lumi expressed concern that the arrows might accidentally hit his father, but Pastry was confident that his father could dodge them. We then see 2 little girls are frightened by the bandit attack, but Josie and Agnes calm them down. Agnes wishes her son good luck and advises him to take care of himself. Afterward, Pastry planned his counterattack to support his father in battle. Meanwhile, we see Fuel using his ability, and activating his magical eye to locate the bandits. He reported that there were about 70 of them, with a few appearing to be trained cavalrymen. They possessed 5 horses and had also captured individuals from the previous village, whom they intended to use for the slave trade. We then see the leader of the bandits receiving a report about the village. Suddenly, Cass and Fuel appeared and launched an attack on the bandit group, inflicting injuries on many of them. The bandit boss believed that they were dealing with trained riders and advised his men to be cautious. Cass and Fuel then attempted to retreat while luring the bandits. The bandit boss tried to stop them, but they successfully led the bandits into a trap and started heading toward the village. One of the watchmen heard the sound of the horses, and fired an arrow into the sky to alert others. Cass understood that Pastry had provided the idea of using a fire arrow to guide him home. Meanwhile, Pastry received a report that his father was being pursued by the bandits. He ordered his friends to prepare to attack the bandits. Cass and Fuel led the bandits toward the village, while Pastry signaled to start the attack. They managed to injure many of the enemies. Pastry ordered another attack, and the kids threw rocks at the bandits. We learned that before the battle, Pastry had explained his strategy to the villagers. The adults initially had doubts about whether the kids could execute the plan, but Pastry managed to convince all the villagers of its advantages. In the present, Pastry supported his father, and Fuel was impressed by his tactics. The bandits struggled in the battle, but their leader didn't give up. He jumped over the river and made his way to the village, with his men following him. He managed to climb up the wall. He then attacked many villagers and threatened to kill them all. The knights of Pastry's family fought against the bandits, and suddenly, the village kids also joined the battle. The bandit boss became angry and targeted the kids. Just as he was about to attack a boy, Pastry saved the boy but got injured in the process. The bandit boss took him as a hostage. However, Pastry had a unique spell that allowed him to transfer the pain of an injured man to the bandits, including their boss. The bandit boss's face was burned, and he was shocked to learn that Pastry was a magic user. The next morning, Agnes received the report that they had won the battle, but Pastry had sustained an injury to his arm. She gets worried, but Josie and the villager assure her that it was just a scratch. Then, we see Pastry distribute food to the villagers. Later, the bandits were apprehended, and they plan to hand them over to Countess Reedes. Fuel hopes to get a good reward, and Cass mentions that it will depend on the negotiation, but he hopes that she covers at least the cost of the war. Following this, Cass rewards the villager, Glakage, for his significant contribution to frontline defense. He also awards Mark and Lumi for assisting Pastry. As they carry out their reward food they were given, Pastry also assists them and expresses his happiness at having them as friends. Afterward, they carried the reward to Mark's home. His mother didn't care about the reward, she was just happy that her son had returned home safely. She also inquired if Mark had caused any trouble for Pastry, but he replied that both his best friends had been a tremendous support in the fight. Later, Lumi's grandpa was delighted to hear about his grandchild's great work. However, many villagers wanted to celebrate with Lumi's family and invited Pastry as well. Mark asked if they are allowed to drink, but since they are kids, they only allowed them to have milk. They celebrated the victory together, and all the villagers praised the children's courage. Suddenly, Pastry started daydreaming because he was planning to bake sweets with the delicious ingredients from his village. Meanwhile, his friends sneak outside to play. Then, Mark gets a stupid idea to visit the arrested bandits because they both aspired to become Pastry's future retainers. They requested to see the bandits, but the guardians instructed the children to play in another area. But the cocky brat still didn't give up, he hid with Lumina behind a bush, and threw rocks to distract the guardians. They both entered the barn, intending to witness the situation of the bandits. The bandit boss noticed his sword on Mark, and devised a plan. He informs him that his sword is special, and with a spell he can use its magic. Since he's facing execution, he wants to tell Mark the secret spell, and asks to come closer. Although Lumi warns him not to go, Mark, being the greedy idiot, goes up to him. As a result, the bandit boss managed to free himself, and launched an attack on Lumi. Mark is worried as Lumina got badly injured. Then, a guardian appeared, and the bandit boss used Mark as his hostage. Another guardian reports to Lumi's grandpa and Pastry that the bandit boss had freed himself. Meanwhile, the bandit boss is surrounded by many retainers, but he manages to escape, using Mark as his hostage. Pastry arrives, and sees Lumi injured. He instructs a guardian to tend to her wounds, while he attempts to rescue Mark. Pastry then follows them on a horse, and devises a strategy to defeat the bandit boss. Meanwhile, his father is shocked to hear that Pastry went alone, and wants to go after him. But Fuel stops him, and insists on going for the rescue. He tells Cass that if villagers knew about this they would panic, so he should remain here to protect the village as its lord. After that, we see the bandit boss and his stolen horse tripping, followed by Pastry arriving in the nick of time, ready for battle. The bandit boss was enraged, knowing that Pastry had set up this apparent trap. They engage in a sword fight, and Pastry recalls his father's advice to grip his sword tightly. Although Pastry is able to block some attacks, he's getting overwhelmed by the bandit's strength. Mark asks Pastry to run away, but he refuses, vowing never to abandon his underlings. The bandit boss then attacks Pastry, breaking his sword in half. The scene then cuts to Fuel, who attempts to locate the boys but is unable to find them. Later, he discovered Pastry's broken sword and believed that Pastry had been killed by the bandit. In the evening, Fuel entered Pastry's home, and was shocked to see Pastry alive. Cass informed Fuel that he and Mark had just returned home. Fuel asks how they never saw him return, when they were the ones who were coming after them. Cass asked his son to explain himself, and Pastry reveals that he had recently replicated his father's magic ability, allowing him to escape safely with Mark. After the incident, Pastry was forbidden from disclosing his magical power to replicate someone else's abilities. However, he was scolded because the ability is new to him, and he could have got teleported inside a rock or deep under the ground. At night, Cass was worried, knowing his son possessed an overpowered magic ability, and may be targeted as a human weapon if his ability is known. In the following days, Mark felt remorseful, recognizing that the incident was his fault. Pastry managed to cheer up his friend and assured him that Lumi would be happy to see both of them. So, they visited Lumi, who was overjoyed to reunite with her best friends. Afterward, Pastry went to the kitchen, excited to bake delicious sweets and bring smiles to people's faces. He began mixing the ingredients, aiming to make something special. Meanwhile, Mark is concerned about whether Lumina had forgiven him for his stupid idea. Mark expressed his apologies, but Lumina wasn't upset with him. She assured him that there was no need to apologize, and they noticed the nice aroma of the pie. Pastry bakes a delicious bonka pie, and serves it to his friends. They found it to be very tasty, but they feel that the honey pickled is so sour. He explains that there are both sweet and sour bonka fruit, and it's the skill of the chef to maintain the right balance. It's the same with people, and asks Mark to reflect on his shortcomings and work harder. Suddenly, Lumi's father, Glakeage, appeared behind Pastry, causing Mark to feel alarmed. However, he isn't angry. Instead, he wants him to marry his daughter as compensation. Lumi also agreed with this decision, and Pastry wonders, when will his harem start? Following this, Lumina offered her father a slice of the bonka pie, and took Mark's share as well, stating that the husband's share belonged to his wife. Poor Guy learns how marriage works, and Pastry is glad that he's still single. Meanwhile, we see the Countess Redes finds out that the bandits were defeated, and thinks that dealing with this could be troublesome. This is where the video ends. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next part.